Zi-Apollo, the protagonist Knightmare Frame of the relatively recently released Code Geass sequel series. If that's the first of you hearing of such a thing, then go and watch my video on the series, linked below. Finally here in metal form. The colours and paint on this Metal Robot Spirits figure are well executed. It all has a nice metallic finish with some very unique colours. In comparison to the anime, the red is a little bit dull, being just bare plastic rather than being painted, except for one spot under the chest which is painted and doesn't match and stands out a little. But the biggest issue is that the main body colour isn't actually accurate. The figure is lighter and more purple, whereas in the show, the frame is closer to a black. The colour on the figure does still look good, but it doesn't contrast with the other colours on the frame as much as the original colour scheme does. Especially the metallic purple. I didn't notice it at all for quite a while, whereas on the original design, it stands out quite well. The detail is good. You can see on the shoulders that they've painted these grey lines, and the centre chest plate is accurately moulded to match the original design, as well as being well painted and outlined in that lighter colour. However, from what I can tell, in comparison to the original design, it is missing some paint apps. Some of that rose detail should also be painted in that lighter colour. The back of the knees are also accurately reproduced from the anime. If you never noticed it in the anime before, it might seem strange that they have metal just poking out of the back of the knees on this figure. However, when you actually go back to check, that is accurate to the show, which is exactly the kind of detail I appreciate figures and everything letting me notice that I never would usually. The accessories are also all well painted. The swords in particular are very detailed and very large. The gold used on the swords isn't the same tone as the one used on the main body, but the brown used along the centre of the swords actually is used on the main body in one place at the front of the cockpit. Very surprisingly. The gun is painted much simpler, but the piping alone being painted makes it look great. The Blaze Luminous is well painted to give it a fade. It attaches on only the left arm, as only that arm has a clear piece that you have to remove in order to put the Blaze Luminous on. The other arm instead just has a strange little notch that I don't know the purpose of. And then lastly, it comes with the in-use /harkens and all of the various hand options that you could need. However, the hands have been an issue. I can only get the forward grip hands to hold the sword. The hole in the straight vertical grip hands seems to be too small. The wrist articulation does thankfully allow you to compensate for it though. The only accessory that's a bit of a disappointment is the alternate face, simply because the red eyes under the visor can't really stand out, like they do in the original anime. Lastly, it also comes with one of Bandai's big premium stands. The writing on it and everything is very nice, but I just always find these stands far too big. They just take up far too much space to be used very often. The size only really makes sense for a centerpiece, which this figure is not. It's a regular size, smallish Knightmare Frame, and that's all. It is as big as it should be though. It fits in with all of the other Metal Robot Spirits Code Geass figures, which means it is slightly larger than regular Robot Spirits Knightmare Frames. The articulation is good and about what you would expect. The only disappointment is that the head can't look up. However, if you remove the cockpit, you can then raise the head and loosely put the cockpit back on. The articulation is also needlessly limited in the hips. The joint just has this lump that can move, but eventually, unavoidably gets in the way of the splits. I've no idea why it's there, it shouldn't be. The most unique and useful range on the figure, I would say, is the inward movement of the hips, however, allowing you to very easily get some standing poses and also more dynamic poses. You can see immediately just in showing you that it kind of looks like a motorbike leaning round a corner. Definitely an underappreciated piece of articulation that I'm glad it has. Overall, it's a good wee figure, but I would also like, in addition to this, either a regular Robot Spirits figure or a model kit in the proper, accurate, original colour scheme, and at a more reasonable and accessible price point. Personally, I would prefer a model kit, because then I can paint it if the colour isn't right and I just like them, but with how thorough they were with the original Code Geass Robot Spirits line, it would be a real shame if they didn't release the Apollo as a regular Robot Spirits as well as hopefully more frames from the show, because a lot of them would be a lot cooler in plastic or model kit form than they even really are in the show. but I won't waste your time repeating what I've already said in more detail in my full video on the series. So, thank you very much for watching this video, subscribe if you enjoyed it, until hopefully next time, bye!